Hi guys, and today I'm reviewing for you another Peugeot. This is the 2008. This is the SUV version of the 208, or the bigger brother if you like. And like that car, this comes with a series of 1.2 three-cylinder petrol engines. You can get them with the base 100 brake horsepower, with the 131 brake horsepower, 130 brake horsepower, which is what this one is, or the range topping 155 brake horsepower. There's also a diesel 1.5 with 105 brake horsepower, and of course the all-electric version with 136 brake horsepower. Prices start from £20,000 and go to well over £32,000 for the GT spec. That's the top of the range version. This one here, to give it its full name, is the 2008 GT Line 1.2L PureTech 130 SNS. Notice no automatic because this is actually a 6-speed manual. Prices for this one start from £26,000 with the options on this car. This is about £28,000. As I mentioned, with that engine, it's got 130 brake horsepower, 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.9 seconds, and good for 122 miles per hour top speed. Fuel consumption, they say, is about just over 43 miles per gallon, and grams per kilometer CO2 is 132. Now, of course, the idea with this car is that it's taller and a little bit longer, so it's supposed to be a bit more practical, a bit more spacious than the 208. So we'll check that out. We'll also start by the fact that it looks quite cool. It looks like, it doesn't look exactly like a 208. It has its own identity, very much part of the SUV lineup of Peugeots, but it's got quite an aggressive look about it, quite a modern one, very sculpted. You can see from the sides, and also this bonnet, and of course the fangs are there as usual. Before we get into the review, make sure that you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy. Make sure that you follow me on all the social media channels. Just search for my hashtag, it's on my hat, and it is of course hashtag browncarguy, and of course subscribe to browncarguy.com. You can of course sponsor my content as well on patreon.com/Shazad Sheikh. Cool, let's get into this. I do like the scoop shape here, really gives it a distinct identity here. And along with that, along with obviously this line here, you follow the line up to here, you see these strakes in the C-pillar, which also give it a little bit of personality and a bit of character as well. Even the roof rails are interesting because they kind of protrude from the top of the roof. Back tail lights, again, they've got that whole claw-like thing going on, as always is the case with the Peugeot, but so much intricate detail in there. Look at that, it's really crystalline-like, isn't it? Really, really nicely done, that, actually. But you need to get close up to appreciate it. So what's the boot space like? Well, obviously, it is a lot more than the hatchback. As you can see, there's 434 litres of space in there, with the seats folded up or in the upright position, and I think it's 1,467 litres of space if you fold the seats down, which is substantial. Tonneau cover. Over here you have the floor, which lifts up to give you a little cavity underneath, a little compartment underneath, and the clever thing is how it just holds itself up just with these little things here, and actually you can just do that, and that's how that works. Simple but clever. In addition to that, it's one of those floors where, you know what, you can just reduce the put the floor down one level and then use the entire space should you need to transport tall stuff and like that, and things like that. A little pocket here, a little pocket there. I should have mentioned that underneath that, now I've got to put that back, underneath that is of course the spare tire, a space saver spare tire with a toolkit and all the rest of it. So very practical back here. Is there more room in the rear seating than there was in the 208? Because the 208 never going to work for me. Let's find that out next. Oh yes, this is so much better than the 2008, and it's still not, I wouldn't say it's spacious for somebody of my height. Let me put the headrest up, so it's digging into my shoulder blades. That's much better. But there is, you know, thanks to these little scoops here, there's just about enough room. That, again, driving seat is set for my position. Again, I'm 6'2" with long legs, so that of course is an issue. So trying to sit behind myself, and I can just about do it. For normal sized adults, there should be plenty of space, so that shouldn't be a problem. You can see just that there's about finger space between my knee and the top there. Similarly down here, you can't make it out, but just between my shin here and the bottom, there's a little bit of space, about a finger's worth of space. Feet room is not too bad. I mean, feet, I can wiggle around my feet, that's not an issue. Over here we have two USB points. That's good. They have thought about families in this car, and they've got those little lights that they've got in the Peugeot as well, which I think the engine needs to be on. And when you just slide, they turn on, and they've got one on each side. That's quite good. Reasonable size sunroof, as you can see. Not panoramic. I wouldn't call that a panoramic though, because it comes sort of most of the way, but not all of the way. And it had the same trim as the GT line trim that the 208 had, which I was eulogizing over actually. So Isofix Chelsea anchor points, which are also in the front passenger seat as well. Same on the 208 as well. So you can actually put your baby seat in the front with you if you want to. But yeah, neatly done headrest, really nice stitching, nice finished material, really nicely settled in. I like this stripe here, nice bit of stitching, like I said, really good. Yeah, strong netting there, which should last the duration. Door pockets, there's no center armrest on this one, but you know, that's fine. Headroom is not too bad. In fact, the headroom is fine, not an issue at all. And I think with 2 people in here, I'd be okay. 3 people would be a bit tight, but it's not too bad. So certainly, if you like the 208 and you need something with a bit more practicality, then I think this is definitely the answer in terms of the boot space available and the rear space available. This would definitely work for a family that's basically grown a little bit and now needs a bit of extra room, and they need to move up from the 208 into something that's equally stylish and from the front very familiar, as we're about to find out. Here we are in the front, and immediately, yes, I am sitting taller. I can tell that straight away. And as I keep saying about this unusual steering arrangement that Peugeot has, it always seems to work better in the taller SUV version, certainly for my longer legs, where I just seem to be, it feels to me like I have a little bit more space between the tops of my knees and the steering wheel once I've set it in a position where I have to, this is obviously reach and rake adjustable, and I have to pull it right back because I have to move the seat back to accommodate my long legs, and then I pull it back to make sure that it clears that, and also so that I can reach it. So complex thing. The main thing to do is to, especially with this steering arrangement, is to go there, try out the car, take it for a drive, make sure that you're comfortable in the car and that it all works for you. So we have a starter button. There it is, and it has literally the same look in this car as the 208. Apart from this seating position, and apart from the fact that this one's a manual and the one I reviewed was an automatic, kind of ironic really. I should have had a manual with that one, an automatic with this one. It would have made more sense. But anyway, otherwise it looks exactly the same. The same aluminium textured thing here, the dashboard trim, which is soft to touch, really nicely done, nice stitching. All of this is soft to touch. This all feels good. It's got that same extraordinary 3D style, holographic style instrument panel. That theme continues all the way around here. Everything is nice to the touch. Everything, this is all touch sequence here. As you can see, it's all responding to touch there. See, hang on, there you go, there you go, there you go, it's responding, there you go, it's responding. So all nicely done. Use micro USB there, main USB there. Like that car, it's got a lid that opens up, and in here is a wireless charger. Same deal. You got space under there. You got another power supply there. 2 cup holders, sports mode, eco mode, all the rest of it. And of course, quite a deep. I think just about the same deep actually. It's about the same amount of depth as the other one thing. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I'm not going to do, because I did a complete rundown. You know it goes through all the modes. If you want to see the details regarding the instrument panel, look at my 208 review, and the link will be below or above here, and you can check it all out there. So I don't really need to do that. So really what we need to do is take it for a drive and see how it feels different in terms of its body size, height, and also it's got a different engine. So again, as you can see, it's got a full reversing camera and a 360, which I don't know how this kind of works. I think until it sort of is aware of it, the camera sometimes doesn't pick up the surrounds, but still very useful. And steering is very light, electric power steering, as you can imagine. Gear change, typically it's locked, you see. It's very, like the 208, it's hyper sensitive about its security. The moment you walk away, it locks itself. The moment you walk towards the car, it unlocks itself. You don't have to even touch the door handle. It takes care of the lock. Basically it's quite paranoid. It will, by default, want to lock itself. That's what it wants to do. Anyway, it's good for security. So, light steering, So it has a manual gearbox on this. It's got that French kind of rubbery kind of feel a little bit, but quite notchy as well. But having said that, it's very well defined. The throws are pretty good. You don't miss it. The clutch is very, very light. I could do with a more distinctive bite on the clutch, but really for the nature of the car that it is, I think that's probably, it's fine as it is. Now the interesting thing of course about this car as compared to the 208, apart from the fact that that was automatic and this is manual, and really it should have been the other way around, but also that was 130 horsepower, this is 150, that was 100 horsepower, this is 131 horsepower, and the engine immediately feels meatier, it feels lustier, it feels gruffer. You know, it does feel like that there's something more in there, definitely. And it does feel, in a sense, quicker. So that's quite bizarre that this car, a bigger car, is, and actually on paper it's quicker because it's 8.9 compared to, I think it was 10 seconds, more than 10 seconds for the other one. But also, it actually does feel quicker as well. But does it feel sporty? No, because I think that the nimble characteristics and the personality of the 208 definitely endowed it with that, you know, little warm hatch sort of spirit. This one is competent. I've driven it on the motorway. This is one of those cars you want to cruise in. It's got reasonable performance. It's very comfortable to ride in. The ride is very, very good. It's very smooth actually, and it absorbs the bumps very good. It's no harshness. There's also no rattle or shakes or anything like that. That, you know, French cars often been accused of, you know, maybe not being as solidly built or maybe feeling a little bit delicate. This has none of that. It feels absolutely solid, and you know, in fact, I think I look at this car and I think this actually would not be a bad long-term investment. That's how it feels. So the ride quality is good. The gears are easy to operate. The steering is light. This is all in normal mode at the moment. Eco mode. Now the thing is, again, despite the fact that it's a bigger car, presumably and logically a heavier car, it's got a bit more power. The engine is probably working harder, and also it's probably using more power to move the car. And yet, so I've managed 32 miles per gallon. To be fair, that includes a motorway trip, but then the other one did as well. I seem to be getting better fuel economy out of the 2008 than I did out of the 208, which, to be fair, I drove mostly around town. But I think that's partly to do with the nature of the car and how I drove it, because I did drive that one like a hot hatch. You know, it was an enjoyable little thing, so I did find myself chucking it around at every opportunity. So perhaps I just drove that one harder than this one, whereas this one does feel a little bit more like a cruiser. That's not to say that it can't do all of this sort of stuff and that it doesn't want to do all of this stuff. It does. It's absolutely fine in terms of performance. The brakes work really well. They're very linear. They make sense. They behave just the way you want them to. The higher seating position, again, doesn't really take much away from it, because you're in that sort of in-between realm where you're not quite at SUV height level, and you're not really at hatch level, but you're slightly above hatch level, definitely above saloon car level. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting that you can kind of feel like you're in an SUV even though you're not really. I mean, I see in front of me a Prius, and I'm probably maybe slightly higher than the Prius driver from how it feels to me now. So not a huge amount of difference, but you do get a little bit of a sense of sitting higher up and, you know, feeling like you've got a better vantage point, although you may not necessarily have, in fact. So there you go. As you can see, that slightly gruffer, meatier, more, you know, naughtier sounding engine, really. I think that's the right sort of word for this. You know, the response to the helm is pretty good. I mean, there's no issues. I can't really complain about anything. And on these rough residential streets, again, I think this has got 18-inch wheels on it, and it's really coping with it very well. It's very well damped. The body control is very good as well. Again, the perception is of a higher riding SUV style vehicle, but there isn't any of that, you know, lean or anything like that floatiness that you might see. I mean, you know, just like even just moving it around, it's pretty good, not an issue at all. And again, it's I don't want to give the impression that it's not enjoyable to drive compared to the 208. It actually is. For a car of this size, for a car of this usability and flexibility, it's very impressive and it is very satisfying to own. So really, it begs the question then that should you get this, should you get the 208 or should you spend a bit more and get this one, because it just answers more questions than the 208 does. And I think the answer would be, I'm going to go around this roundabout again just to get a bit of space and just to show you that actually it grips really well, holds on really well, the steering works really well, slight bit of understeer, which you can just, feather back with a little bit of lifting off of the throttle. But there you go. A lot of, it's an enjoyable thing. Not at all. You're not losing anything really. So I've got to say that if you want a smallish Peugeot, but you want a little bit of extra room and you still want it to be fun and entertaining to drive, this is the one to get. Simple as that. Get the 2008. I think it even looks cool. I think the looks are pretty nice on this one. Yeah, 2008. Get this one. That's the way to go. There you go. There's my verdict. There's my response to this car. Let me know what you think of this car, the video, me, anything else you want to comment about above, below, elsewhere. Also, make sure that you are subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy. Make sure that you follow me on all the social media channels. Just search for my hashtag. It's browncarguy right there on my hat. And of course, subscribe to browncarguy.com. If you enjoy my videos and my content, you can also sponsor my content at patreon.com/Shazad Sheikh, and there you can join some awesome people such as Mohamed Ali Humaid over in the UAE, Partha over in India, find him on parthans.com, Tom Conway-Gordon right here in the UK, and Isaac Beauchard over in America, find him on bespokeautos.com. And they are all patrons. You can join that lineup and get a name check at the end of my videos. If not, don't worry, it's not an issue. Make sure that you reach down and hit that like button below this video. Try to comment, please try to share, and definitely make sure that you're subscribing. Thanks so much for watching, and until the next one.